Look at that. So I think we're live. Do you feel live?
I feel alive.
Okay, well, welcome to everyone joining us tonight on our impromptu snowstorm 3. What is it? Is it the third or fourth? I think it's the third Northeaster. Yeah. This is the second time I had a regular workshop out at a library canceled. So what I'm doing is roping Pearl in to do a little impromptu Q&A, a little college planning shim sham. So welcome. If you can hear us, please let us know. Say hi. Let us know where you're from. Pearl's going to be, and I are both going to be looking through the comments if you have any questions. The format for tonight, here's what's on the table. We got 21 or 22 questions when people registered for the webinar, and your questions are our pleasure. We're here to try to answer your questions. There's nothing to buy. We're going to go for about an hour or so max, and we're just going to try to get through. I told anyone who submitted their questions by 6 p.m. tonight that I'd be able to, I promised them I'd be able to get to their questions, and I've kind of started dividing them up here between questions for you and questions for me. You see us going live there?
Yes.
That's good. Okay, so that seems to be fine. Can people hear us?
Hello. Can you guys hear us out there?
I'm going to assume that you can, and if they can't, maybe there's a sound volume setting or something like that.
Cindy, can you hear us?
Yeah, who should we be saying hi to? Tell us who you see.
My BF from college.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can see comments here. Kim Barrett says yes. Elizabeth Ozal, yes. Kim, all right, great. I see Tracy Welsh Padovan says either hi or help. Hello. Yeah, from Tracy and Jim. All right, good. TRK Rose from Queens. Nice. John Franzaglia from Charlotte, North Carolina. Cheryl Wiener. All right, good. Dismissed with the pleasantries. I see people coming on. Let's get right into the questions. Okay. So this one came from Rita. And like I said, I'm going to get through all these as quickly as possible. Pearl and I.
Lovely Rita.
She might be. She sounds lovely. That could delay things, comments like that, but I usually make the silly comments. Pearl, what do you have in that cup?
I have Diet Root Beer.
Okay.
St. Patty's is over.
Okay. So let's go through the questions. Question from Rita, just Rita, and this one's for you, Pearl. What is the annual salary amount that would qualify for the most financial aid?
Well, for the most financial aid, okay, I'm not going to be sarcastic. There is no magic number. There is a pizza pie worth of different factors that go into the formula that makes up your particular EFC, or there's no.
It's always a food analogy. Like there's never. You can't say it's.
How many other kind of pies are there?
I don't know.
There's
but I wouldn't
pizza
even.
Pie. There's coconut pie. There's.
No, I'm not. I'm saying
it's
always a food analogy.
Yeah, that's what you get with me.
All right. Sorry.
So there is. So basically, if you have one piece of the pie that's more or less, meaning your income, then that determines how much or how little the rest of the factors in that pie you can have, if you will, before you would incur a penalty. In other words,
so what's the number?
There is no magic. There is no number. There is no number. Okay. So, and then that goes for asset. Well, yeah, that does actually go for asset too, sort of. Income represents a portion of the formula. Assets and certain kinds of assets, and we'll probably end up touching on those as we get through this.
Perhaps.
Count against you more, some count against you a lot, and some count against you not at all in terms of financial aid and penalty.
So what Pearl's saying, to sum up, is there's no magic number because there's so many other factors, including savings, including number of children in college at the same time,
yes,
and other things. I just need to. I'm laughing, but I'm also a little angry that I didn't say this first. I totally meant to say this first, but Sri says hi from Cambridge Analytica, which is hilarious. That's the firm that was accused of doing all sorts of unauthorized Facebook scraping for the Trump campaign.
Oh, like
I totally meant to make that joke earlier.
Like
and
why he's in hiding? What's his name? Mark?
No, it's not the guy who's in hiding. It's the the CEO was
Mark Zuckerberg.
No. Is he in hiding?
Well, he was.
No, it was the guy from Cambridge Analytica who supposedly illegally got 50 million Facebook names somehow. I don't think it didn't seem illegal to me, but I don't really get the whole thing. So very funny, and I'm angry at myself, not at you. So good one. Okay, so that was question number 1. All right, question number 2. I think this one's going to be from me, and it's from Wendy, who I spoke to yesterday, I believe, because this is what we talked about. So hopefully I don't contradict myself. How important is visiting the specific department at a school? What if you don't know what specific area you want to study? Is it a waste of time to visit the business school if you end up going into a different area? And what if you can only visit in the summer months? So that's like a 4-parter. But Wendy deserves that. She has twins and she's a client, so you get special consideration, extra. So it's not a waste of time. It's actually very helpful. The bigger picture, what Wendy's referring to is advice that I give clients, which is along the lines of, it's great to tour college, when it's in session. Sooner or later, though, usually that's after 2 or 3 visits, they all kind of blend in. All the college tours are kind of like, there's the science building, there's the new rock climbing wall, there's the new, $50 million aquatic facility, there are the dorms, there's where the kids eat, there's the Chick-fil-A. Okay. So you're more likely to get a better sense of what it's going to be like for you as a student there if you spend time with the department head of the departments or majors that you're considering focusing on, where you can ask questions like, well, kids who had my major last year, like, where are they now? What happened to them? Who recruits on campus? That type of thing. So that's, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot more there, but that's really what the question is about. And if you don't know for sure that you're going to go to business or to accounting or to something else, it doesn't matter. I think it's going to be very important to not only to help you figure that out, what you're going to major in, but also if that college is a good fit for you, if you major in that. And also, when you come to the college essays, frequently colleges have supplemental essays along the lines of explain what it is about our college that attracted you to come here, why are you applying here. A high-level answer, which doesn't really help, is, well, you have a great reputation, you're located in the heart of Washington or Boston or whatever, and the opportunities, are amazing. You can say that about, 200 colleges maybe?
At least.
So it's a deeper answer that's more convincing is, well, when I sat down with Professor such and such at the, biology department, and he told me about this amazing exchange program with kids in Glasgow, blah, 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 blah. That's a much better answer, and it shows that you've done your due diligence and you've dug in. And then the rest of the question is, is it a waste of time to go over the summer? No one can visit every college, but it's better to do it when they're in session. But go in the summer if you can't go, during the school year, and then go back in the fall if you really think it's worth a second look. Bigger colleges tend to have more stuff going on in the summer, but still not the same type of beehive of activity. Mm-hmm. And smaller schools can sometimes feel like a ghost town, so that might be a little misleading. So if you have to choose which colleges, if you have big colleges and small colleges on your list, and you can only go during the summer, I would focus on the bigger schools. Okay?
I would agree.
Okay, so thank you, Wendy. All right. Dina, I think this is probably for me and you to answer. So I'm going to have, I'll throw this one at you. Stevens Institute, I believe, states in the fine print that their merit aid can only be used toward tuition. My son's merit scholarship is close to tuition as of September. We all know tuition will increase over the 4 years, yet the merit aid package is set. Can we appeal for more money now? Ask them to meet a competitor's school merit aid. What do you think?
Of course you can.
Yeah.
Of course you can. Nothing is set in stone, and everything is negotiable.
Yeah, I would try. Stevens is pretty reasonable. I'm not sure that they're going to budge on this one, but maybe you're setting precedent for next year. You can appeal next year too.
Right.
So
absolutely,
definitely try.
And to that end, financial aid is awarded on an annual basis, and it is applied for on an annual basis.
And this is a merit scholarship.
No, I understand that,
okay.
But when your award comes out in year 2 and includes that original award that was granted for 4 years, it will be subsumed within your entire award that is also in part based on your financial need, should there be, and as that changes from year to year. So a new award is issued. Your merit award is protected, but should you at some point be able to have an argument, whatever your circumstances are, each year, it's fair game to make your own appeal for that year.
Okay. Need-based or merit-based?
Correct.
Okay. So you're answering Dina's question, and you're also answering a question that someone else may have.
Oh.
That was like a twofer. Okay. All right. Let me keep track of these. So, oops. Jolenta, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. No burning questions yet. My son is in 9th grade, so I'd just like to listen to you smart people.
She's smart.
To build my portfolio of questions. I appreciate your webinars and learn. Regards.
Good for you.
So yeah, that is great. The argument, and I don't subscribe to this necessarily, but the argument for learning as much as you can and possibly working with someone in our field as early as 9th grade is because that's when you start creating the body of work that will ultimately be judged by admissions officers. That being said, a lot of kids I know are not ready to benefit from advice from hiring someone. So it's smart to go ahead and kind of dip your toe in the water this way with us. That being said, we have clients in New York City who are conditioned to pay, like $10,000 a year for $40,000 starting in utero or something, or in 9th grade, because it's a different mentality. So I'm not saying that's bad at all, but that's just something that's right for everyone. So good for you.
It's good to begin this conversation. It's good to begin this cognition, and we've touched on it, not yet tonight, but it's a really good thing to get your head around the entire college process, even generally, to begin having important conversations with your child/student.
I think if you ask anyone who's been through the process with older kids, if you ask them, do you think you started early enough, or what would you tell me if you knew then what you now know? Would you do anything different? What would you tell me about that? I think most people feel like they ran out of time. So It's good to start in 9th grade.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Okay, next question. This is going to be for Pearl. Parents, this is from Jeff. So thank you, Jeff. Parents are divorced. FAFSA was completed by one parent with no information about the other. Can the parent, whose information was not provided on the FAFSA, take out a PLUS loan, that's the parent loan for undergraduate students, for the student? If so, would that be an issue?
The answer is yes, the non-custodial parent can take out a PLUS loan, and no, it will not be an issue. The Parent PLUS loan is 100% credit-based in terms of whether or not you will be granted such a loan, and your income does not even come into play on the form, believe it or not. You will get an instant decision when you make the application for a Parent PLUS loan, whether you're the parent who completed the FAFSA or whether you are the non-custodial parent. The only thing that the non-custodial parent will need to do in order to apply for a PLUS loan is obtain his or her own FSA ID username and password. That parent, the non-custodial parent, once he or she has that FAFSA FSA ID username and password, which is used to, amongst other things, access a student's FAFSA with the student FSA ID. It's used also to sign electronically the FAFSA form if you are the custodial parent who has completed the FAFSA. But it is also, whether it be for either parent, the way a parent accesses the federal student loan site and enables one to access the application for the PLUS loan online. And then once you complete that application for the PLUS loan, it immediately renders your decision, yes or no. When the answer is yes, then the next step would be to complete the master promissory note, and then that sets that up. But to answer your question in short is not an issue. if it's the non-filing parent to obtain a plus loan.
I was just going to explain this, but I saw a question come in from Tracy Graziano. What is a plus loan? Plus loan stands for the parent loan for undergraduate students. It comes from the Department of Education. Pretty easy to get.
Yes.
Rates and fees might be a little higher than what you might be able to get on the open market, but when you go to the open market, it's much harder, much more rigorous than pain in the butt underwriting.
Correct.
And you can borrow up to the whole amount.
Yes, that's right. You have an option on the plus loan. When you're completing it, you can either indicate an amount, a specific amount. I want to borrow $10,000 in, that freshman year as a parent because, my whatever. Or, I'm not really sure exactly how much my kid's getting and whatever, but I just want to cover the whole thing with this parent plus loan.
Pie.
A whole pie.
Pizza.
So basically, once you've indicated the school, no pepperoni for me. Once you've indicated the school, it has the information about anything your student has been awarded, and then you can indicate, and I want the plus loan to cover the balance of the cost of attendance. So then the powers that be between the parent plus loan site and the school you've indicated connect, and that is put in place. You get notifications, of course, anytime there's a disbursement. You will have some flexibility about terms, et cetera, but the other part of the plus loan, as long as we're talking about it, no payments are due. Interest accrues on it. No interest or payments are due until 6 months after graduation. And right now, the rate is...
But you want to pay the
yes,
interest is accruing, so...
The interest is accruing,
Yeah.
That's correct. So obviously, the more you can pay any of it, sooner the better you'll be. But you are not obligated to pay any of it until 6 months after the student graduates. Right now, that rate on the plus loan is at 7%. FYI.
Okay. Changes every July. They reset them every
exactly.
July.
For this year, it's 7%. The Parent Plus loan is not yet available. It will, for the 2018-19 school year, it becomes available on April 1st.
Okay. That was from Girk. Jeff Gherkin. It's funny. I have a friend, I don't know if she's on name, who growing up was Shannon McGurk. We called her Gurks. There's a whole Dr. Seuss thing, right? Circus McGurkus and stuff?
McGurkus, yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So I think this one's for me. Lisa, how to write the appeal. All the schools, and I'm going to read this whole thing because this pertains to probably a lot of people watching live and maybe watching on replay. How to write the appeal. All the schools want all the EFC, which is expected family contribution. If you have questions on that, ask me in chat in the comment section. All the schools want the EFC for one kid. We will have 2 in college next year, and did not pay attention to the CSS explanation box that's on a different form, where we told them of certain circumstances, income being cut, etc. Each school website has different paperwork for appealing, and seems like they don't respond until just before May 1st, not giving much time to make a good decision or get all the correct info to them. Never mind trying to get the get to the admitted student days. Okay, so that is all true. Colleges know that you're under pressure. The rules a couple of years ago for the financial aid paperwork, for the FAFSA financial aid form, which is the main form, free application for federal student aid, and the CSS profile changed a little bit, but the upshot of the changes were to be that they were available earlier, or the FAFSA became available in October. So the theory that the Department of Education had at the time was that would allow colleges to give out financial aid awards earlier. And this scenario that Lisa's talking about, where everyone's feeling like I'm waiting, and it's March, now it's April, where's my offer? That was not supposed to happen, but it still happens. So that reform didn't really have the intended effect.
No.
So you're in this. So my first comment is, you're in the same boat as many other people. Number two, there is no opportunity on the FAFSA. You didn't say this, but I'm just clarifying. There's no opportunity on the FAFSA to say, hey, I know things look one way on paper, but the reality is far different. You try to do that on the CSS profile because there is a special explanation box. Some colleges require that form in addition to the FAFSA. But I think virtually every time that just gets ignored by the financial aid officers. So this is the time to reiterate that award, that appeal of that award, and to give a full-blown explanation of why things are different now than they were back when you filed. So that's the general answer. I have two ways that we can help you with that. Can you post two sites for me? One is a very inexpensive course on how to do the appeal, and it's got sample letters and it runs through every type of scenario, including yours. And that is www.appealsclass.com. So just post that, and then the second option is and we're still taking on a few people, but we're getting a little too busy, so I may have to shut this down. If you want help, if you want done for you, then the other site is www.appeals-service.com. Did you do it? I can't see. Okay. So, but this is the time to do it, and April is a very busy month. But if it's any consolation, the colleges are scrambling also to hit their enrollment targets. So not only do you have plenty of company from parents, you have different types of company from colleges. All right, so if you're just joining us and you have questions, pop them in comments. I'm getting through all the pre-submitted ones first. Please like and comment and happy emoji and whatever. Share this, please, because that helps us get the word out. This is totally free. There's nothing to buy here. Although I just shamelessly plugged two different services, but that's really what I wanted to offer you. Because I think that'll be the most helpful. Okay. This one I think is for Pearl. This is from Sue. If parents are divorced and child lives with mother as a dependent, is it only the mother's tax return and assets that need to be submitted on the FAFSA, or does father also have to submit his information?
That's so patronizing.
Deal with it, babe. Okay. Finding it again. I heard that the threshold, and this is for California, I heard that the threshold is earnings up to $80,000 and assets of less than $200,000 in order to receive financial aid. Is this correct? That's not a California-specific question. Or is that threshold for when they request the father's financials to assess whether to offer the student money for college fees? You know what I like about this question is that this three-part question is that we have so many questions that either implicitly or explicitly kind of ask the same thing. So there's a lot of misconceptions about financial aid. And I'm not so I'm not singling you out, Sue, for asking this, but I would clear this up as many times as possible because sure. I don't know why people still think this. So let me ask you this before we get to the divorce thing.
Yes.
She's talking about threshold and earnings, which we already talked about. There is no threshold, and then there's another thing: assets of less than $200,000. Is that some sort of magic number?
The answer is no, because each family has its own particular number that is that family's asset threshold allowance amount. For example,
wait, don't go in the weeds with that one. So the answer is, please.
No.
The answer is there are no bright line tests. Income, it kind of is what it is, but you could have 3 kids in college at the same time, and your contribution would be different. By the way, on the webinar that I told you about today. Yes. I reiterated the learning that if you have a contribution that's based on your FAFSA and the number that gets spat out once you file a FAFSA that you can contribute, your expected family contribution is $40,000. Mm-hmm. If you with 1 kid in college, if you apply again when you have 2 kids in college on the FAFSA, your EFC will now be half, assuming everything else is the same about you. It'll be half of that because it gets split between the kids. Right. On the other form, the CSS profile, not half.
Just some.
Just less. Mm-hmm. Yep. And we also talked about business assets and some other stuff. So that's why I'm telling you, watch that webinar. You know all that stuff.
It's so enticing. You don't even have to say that to me.
Well, I watched it. Okay, so the other thing about assets is sometimes you can reposition assets. I saw another question about that, into products that don't count against you in the financial aid formulas, namely retirement accounts. Some people pay off a mortgage. There's insurance products. There's annuities. I can't go into so that's a complicated scenario. Well, you may have a different scenario than anyone else watching this. So you just have to be very careful about it, and that's what we do with clients. But that is a possibility. So okay, so let me get back to the first part of the question for you, Pearl.
Second part.
Well, the first part that I skipped over is if parents are divorced and the child lives with the mother as a dependent, is it only the mother's tax return and assets that need to be submitted on the FAFSA form?
Yes.
Yeah.
The answer to that question is yes.
What if the school takes another form?
Okay, here is the deal with divorced parents and the financial aid forms. Each school takes the FAFSA. If your school only requires the FAFSA, then only the custodial parent, the parent with whom the child resides with 50% or more than the time, only that parent's financial information, tax return, assets, etc., go on the FAFSA. Now, if the student is applying to a school that requires both the FAFSA and an additional form, the CSS profile, then within that CSS profile, there will be a few questions asked about the non-custodial parent, namely his or her name, address, the year of separation, the year of divorce, whether there's an agreement specifying contribution, the employer of the non-custodial parent, the occupation of the non-custodial parent. Okay, nothing else at this point. Now, a subset of schools that require the FAFSA and the CSS profile, or a subset of those schools requiring the CSS profile, will also require that non-custodial parent to complete nowadays an additional portion of the CSS profile that pertains to the financial information of that non-custodial parent. It's pretty much a mirror image of the questions that are asked of the custodial parent on the CSS profile. So I know this may be confusing. So I'm just going to quickly go over it again. So all schools take the FAFSA.
You hit me.
And for those schools that only require the FAFSA, just the non-custodial parent's information will go on that FAFSA in all cases.
Yeah, I know.
If you're applying, what determines which form? The school your student is applying to. If the student is applying to a school that requires both the FAFSA and the CSS profile, then there are a few questions, not financial ones, but a few questions that are asked, demographic information about the non-custodial parent. And then there are still some schools that require the FAFSA, the CSS profile, and a portion of the CSS profile that asks specific questions about the non-custodial parent's income, assets, everything that's asked of the custodial parent. So it all comes down to, it depends on the school and what that school requires.
All righty. Fulsome answer. I see some questions coming in. I see a lot of likes and shares. So yeah. Please, we appreciate that. Please share this. It helps us get the word out. Another shameless plug here. We have a bunch of, really a lot of speaking things coming up at different libraries and PTAs. So a lot of times people who watch this are involved with their PTAs. If you're looking for speakers about this stuff, definitely different than what you're going to hear in from your guidance counselor or something. Speaking at the High School for Sciences and Engineering, I think, which is like a top 10 school in the country, at least in the state. I have that coming up, and I just booked the Bronx Science. We're coming back there again. And lapse of judgment for them 2 years in a row, having me back, and various libraries. So that's if you're interested, just shoot a private message, and I'll take a look and get back to you. Okay. All right. So Tricia, This is an Andy question. What can differentiate your child from the thousands of other applicants? In a nutshell, think CASA, C-A-S-A, consistent, atypical student activities. So let's focus on the first two things, because this gives me an opportunity to say the joke that I think is really funny. Let's talk about consistent versus inconsistent, or what we call the born-again junior phenomenon, badge. Badge usually happens when someone in the family, mom, wakes up when the kid is like a sophomore in high school and says something along the lines of, Johnny, I just read this article on Facebook that says you got to have good extra. Well, that's if you're from Boston, right? So, but if you're not, we're Long Island. It's more like, Harrison, get off your Xbox. I just read this article on Facebook that says you have to have good extracurricular activities to get into a good college. Yeah, Mom? So here's what's going to happen. You haven't done squat, but I'm going to help you. You're going to organize, I'll help, a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. Not just any 3-on-3, not just you and your kid, your friends in your $200 Nikes and long shorts, chucking up 3-pointers that Steph Curry wouldn't even dream of shooting. But it's going to be a fundraiser to end all fundraisers. We are going to, with this tournament, we're going to raise money to wipe out, one afternoon, autism, breast cancer, and moms with autism and breast cancer, autistic moms with breast cancer. The tournament will be over by 4. We'll ship the money off by 5, and then everything should be cleared by 6. Okay, Mom. So here's the problem with that. Everything's the problem with that. Admissions officers know when a kid has never done anything, and then all of a sudden, they become super college guy or super college girl, and they join all these clubs. You can't do that. It's got to be consistent. So don't, that's the argument for starting in 9th grade or 10th grade. Start doing stuff then. Okay. Atypical is, in CASA, consistent atypical student activities. Atypical means not doing just the same stuff that everyone else does. So it's great to join a club, to do community service on that. It's atypical to found a club. I guess it's good to, have a job. Well, that's actually a little bit different. Most kids don't have jobs, but it's atypical to have your own business, that type of thing. So that's what you need to be thinking about is what can I do that's different than what everyone else is doing? And frankly, we, our own cooking, we're doing the same thing that we advise kids one-on-one. Every year we have kids who get to Stanford, Yale, and Cornell, and we had one get to Johns Hopkins today I heard about, which is awesome. Schools like that are super competitive, where there's 5,000 kids who look the same on paper, and we're telling them you need to say what you stand for and be different. We're doing the same thing. These goofy webinars, the books that we've written, and are writing, in the middle of writing right now. That type of stuff. We're doing the same thing. We're trying, because most people in our field don't do this. So that's what it's all about. It's about marketing. So thinking like a marketer is really the best advice I can give you. Okay, so that was Trisha. Okay, this one is Holly. How do you know if a specific college is known for giving scholarships? You want to try that one? You want me to handle that one?
You can handle that one.
I would say look on the College Board website, collegeboard.org, and you can look up each college, and then there's like a tab on paying or something. It's called Big Future. That's part of the College Board site, and you can get a good feel that way. It's not going to be dead on accurate. The other thing is to go to the net price calculators. Each college on its website is mandated by the government to have a net price calculator where you can plug in not just your financial information, but also your kids. Usually they ask for the kids' GPA and scores, that type of thing. That might help figure out if you have a shot at getting money. Again, you can't rely on them to the dollar, but that's what they're there for, to help you see you may not have to pay full price. Okay, so that was Holly. All right, Tim. This one's for you, Pearl.
Let's hear it.
From Tim. I know that 401k plans are not supposed to hurt you, but if you contribute the full taxable amount, won't your FAFSA your FAFSA score. I think he means the EFC. That's like actually an interesting way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Won't the your EFC, expected family contribution, be higher? I heard if you contribute less, your score, your EFC, will go down. So that's the question.
Yes. Okay. So
Very good question.
The answer is yeah, it is a common question. What you're getting at, and it is entirely true. The contribution to your retirement plan that is made in the base year that you judged on. So for this current school year, rather for the aid year now that people are hearing back about, which is the 2018-19 school year. For that school year, the 2016 tax return was used to judge in the formula. As to your your contribution to the retirement account in 2016, any amounts contributed get added, even though they are excluded for income tax purposes for that year, they are included or added back in for the purposes of the financial aid formula. So if you are just not going to contribute at all, then yes, you'll see a lower EFC than if you had contributed that year.
Yeah, but here's the deal: you're also going to pay more in taxes. So right. I just, we're talking about from the purely financial aid standpoint, but the bigger picture is like, who the hell, if you have the opportunity to save money for retirement, do it. Because I think the policy behind what Pearl's saying is, and I don't love this, but I think I'm just trying to speculate here, is that if you are going to take a deduction on $10,000 of contributions you made to a retirement plan, that's going to lower your taxes, but the Department of Education is not going to allow you to double dip and also lower your expected family contribution. So it's either one or the other. But but if you don't deduct, or if you don't contribute to the retirement account, right. You'll have higher income. Right. You'll pay more in taxes. And
you'll be retaining more, essentially, because you're not withholding.
And we're not financial advisors, so I don't know. I'm just giving you like the broad brush. It may be more advantageous or not, but just from a philosophical standpoint, I have a very hard time ever telling someone not to contribute to retirement. But it's also a 2-year. This is another thing. It's also a 2-year income look back on the financial aid form. So if you have someone who graduates in 2019. The tax year that they're looking at is 2017, which was
the one you're working on now, or have just filed.
And you would have already made the decision whether to contribute to your retirement account or not.
Right.
So at least for freshman year, that's the tax year that they're looking at.
But for the parents of the 9th grader who's watching,
yeah,
if it's in your control, you can affect that.
That's Jolanta. Okay, and thank you for all of you who are using your real names, who are not named I Am Storm. Saw that one. Okay. This one, I think, is from me. This is from Terry. Is it possible to appeal a $20,000 a year scholarship award from Northeastern Honors when we will not be filing on a FAFSA or CSS profile, and a larger award was received from Rensselaer, RPI, and Stevens? Is it possible? Yeah, I mean, the answer is yes. I mean, it's kind of in line with what we think. There's really no downside ever to appealing. Is Northeastern going to care? I think that's really what you're asking about, those offers from those other schools. You may be at the top of the heap right now in terms of the offer that you got. So I wouldn't think that you're going to do well. But every year we have unbelievable surprises that catch us off guard. So definitely do it, and maybe you'll be one of those stories. I would definitely try because they have the money. Like, why not? There's no downside. All right, Eric, this is such a good question. Do you believe that summer is supposed to be fun? Or do you feel it's necessary for kids to take enrichment classes or to study for the SAT or ACT? What are the best ways to spend summer? Eric, it is fun to study for the SAT. Fun's for losers, Eric, okay? At Lockwood College Prep, this is where fun goes to die. That's actually the unofficial slogan for, I think U Chicago. We have 3 former U Chicago admissions officers who've told me that at one point or another. Right. Yeah. I think, I'm not we're not the typical college advisors in this area. We see people who are studying, night and day from ninth grade on for the SAT and the ACT and doing all kinds of crazy stuff over the summer. I think you should be productive over the summer, but you should also have time to go to the beach and just mess around, do whatever you want. I think you can do a lot of these things, a lot of the enrichment things that, that are going to be enriching and, have a side benefit of looking good for college applications, but not at the expense of completely not having any fun or downtime or recreation. We also think that the best time to start for test prep is the summer before junior year. We run a bunch of mini courses. We don't have like a whole summer thing where it's just grinding, kids down. We'll do like a 12 lesson, type of thing, which goes over, I think, 4 weeks or 5 weeks or something. But you can do both. I mean, there's no need to make college stuff a 9 to 5
and
thing.
as long as you have touched on this subject, the only other thing I just figured was worth mentioning is sometimes there's a misimpression that if one attends one of these pay-for-play summer programs, that is somehow going to give them an edge ultimately for admission at that school. And sometimes these are very costly programs, and we have not really seen there to be a tremendous amount of connection between one's attendance at one of these programs and ultimately
there's none.
Necessarily.
There's no correlation, right? If you do
Right.
the summer program at Brown, where all you need to do,
Pay.
to get in is,
Pay.
maybe an application process, but it's not
Right.
the same as getting into Brown.
Correct.
It's really, if you have a pulse and a credit card, you have a good shot.
Right.
There's exceptions, but that doesn't help you get into Brown.
Yes, because of course you're still there. And just getting back to the CASA theme, if you're there and you make it your business as a young student to meet and get to know a department head who takes a liking to you, sure, of course that can tip the scale ultimately when you apply. But in the event that you are just an ordinary person, student going and having a great, 3-week writing seminar, that's terrific and enriching, but you're not necessarily increasing your chances to go to that school. Just wanted to caution the listeners.
Nice.
The viewers.
So if you're just joining us, I see a lot of people coming in and out. We are going through a bunch of questions that were submitted to us ahead of time when I emailed our list, and I have about 11 to go. And we're also getting some other questions. If you have any questions, pop them in chat. We'll go through them at least for another 15, 20 minutes. I think we're going to be on a little bit longer, I'm guessing. And but yeah, I see some stuff. I see some activity, so it's good. So thanks for joining us. And again, thanks for the likes and shares and all the funny comments. So far, the Cambridge Analytical comment was not only my favorite one, but the one that angered me the most because I didn't come up with it. Or I did, but I didn't pull the trigger on it. Okay. Pearl, I'm going to throw this one to you. This is from Michelle. Can students get college loans without parents co-signing? Where? And then there's more stuff. So I'm going to ask you that question, then we'll talk about the rest of it.
The answer is, in your freshman year, you're going to get $5,500 from the federal government that you do not need co-signed by a parent, period. And whatever other grant money that the school chooses to give you.
What about borrowing more?
As for borrowing more, then you need a parent or some other person who is going to fund that for you. Co-sign either privately, you can get a loan.
Why?
You can get a private loan co-sign because you're not creditworthy. You do not have the income to justify paying back that loan, so you're not going to get it. If you're a student, you have an option as to whether or not to avail yourself of the Parent Plus loan through the federal government.
That's not a student.
Or you can, as a student, get a private loan that will need to be co-signed by a parent.
Assuming your kid doesn't have credit.
Right.
Most kids don't. Most 18-year-olds don't.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so the next question, I think maybe I'll answer this one. Is the best strategy to pay down debt with discretionary assets so these assets don't get reported on FAFSA? Last year, we decreased assets by $8,000 and paid debt, but that didn't make any difference on EFC. Are there FAFSA asset thresholds that cause EFC to be lower versus higher, say $10,000 versus $50,000 as reportable? Yes. So the answer is that the asset penalty meaning the amount that they charge you for having savings, is like 5% and change. So if you're paying down $8,000, that's only going to it's only going to affect your EFC by like $400 or something. So that is why you didn't really see a difference. Even $50,000 is only going to change your contribution by $2,500. So it's really not that big of a penalty associated with assets, where we've seen people significantly improve their eligibility by sheltering, not hiding, but sheltering their money, is when they have like $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, because that represents, same form, it's formulaic, 5%. That could be, it could be $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a year of eligibility they could be creating for themselves. But if there's no threshold, really, without getting too esoteric about it, there's no threshold per se that you need to worry about until you get to $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in savings.
Right, but just as long as we're using the word threshold, let me just say this about there is an asset threshold amount that I started to touch on before.
Yeah. Which has been getting lower and lower each year.
Yeah, it is. That each family is assigned based on that family's other metrics. For example, how many children you have in college, the age of the parents, whether it's a single or multi-parent, single parent home or married family. All of that will bear on the number that your family is given, which is your asset threshold amount, which asset threshold allowance amount, which means, and it'll actually say on the FAFSA, do your parents have assets over, and it gives you a dollar amount. If it's a single person, maybe
like $22,000 or something.
Well,
right? It used to be like 50, depending on your age. Now it's like half.
If you're a single parent with one kid in school, it's like $8,000. So basically, whether it's $22,000, if you are allowed as the parent to have $8,000, or in that case, $22,000 before any financial aid penalty will incur. Anything above that $22,000 will be given a 5.64% penalty against your financial aid eligibility.
Okay, this is from Tracy. Best ways to ask for more scholarship monies, guidance counselor, parent, or both? Actually, I would say none of the above. The best way is for the kid to ask. Yeah. Never a third party, never a guidance counselor. So one of my clients asked me today, because I'd written a letter for her to send, doing this. She asked me if I was going to send it. Same thing. You don't want a third party or a hired gun to ask. You do the asking. So it's best if your kid does it, for sure. Okay. This one is from Dane, which I think is going to be a joint answer, perhaps. Okay. I'll let you decide, Pearl. Even with an EFC of $14,000, again, that's expected family contribution, the number the government thinks you can pay.
Right.
Even at $14,000, all public universities I've contacted told me that my student would not qualify for need-based aid. Is this accurate? If not, how low would the EFC number need to be to qualify for a student attending a public college to receive need-based aid? I've been told the number is in the $8,000 to $9,000 range and lower. Thanks. You want to answer that one, or would you like me to?
You can give that one a stab.
I'm sick of carrying you.
Okay.
So, two things here. Number one, I'm going to guess that you're talking about out-of-state public universities, meaning colleges that are in states where you don't live. So colleges tend to favor their in-state residents by charter. They have to. That's the first answer. Second answer is they don't have money, period. They don't give need-based aid unless you have a really low EFC. $14,000 might equate to income of like $100,000 or maybe a little bit less potentially. You don't have to tell me this in chat. Generally speaking, I think you need to be in the $50,000 to $60,000 range to get money from a state school that is need-based. Now, merit, a lot of state schools have started to get more merit money. It's got nothing to do with your income. In fact, they want people who are from out of state and are affluent enough to pay the difference between the sticker price and a little bit of merit money, because even that amount is still going to be higher than what the in-state kids have to pay. A lot of state colleges are having budgetary shortfall issues. So that is the answer that Pearl and I gave together. Okay. All right. Pearl, I'm going to have you do part one of this, if not both parts. This is from Michael. What assets count on FAFSA and CSS, and what alternatives are there to shift assets to off-balance sheet? So you do part one, I'll do part two.
Okay. Well, on the FAFSA, things that count against you are your cash, your checking account, your savings account, CDs, money market, mutual funds, stocks, bonds, commodities, investment property, okay? This is not to be the value, right? So it is the difference between the value of your investment property and the debt you owe on it, not to be confused with your primary residence, which is not included as an asset on the FAFSA. Also not included on the FAFSA. Okay, but the value of your home and the equity you have in it is included on the CSS profile.
You do the stuff that's included. I'll do the stuff that's not included.
Okay, fine. Still on the FAFSA only? Or am I?
The question was about both.
So far, everything I've mentioned that's included on the FAFSA is also included on the CSS profile. Some other things that are included on the CSS profile that are not included on the FAFSA are the value of your primary residence and the mortgage that you may or may not have in it and the current value of it. Your retirement accounts. These are not really used per se in the formulas. However, they want to know how much you have in retirement in the aggregate. Student assets, anything that's held by the student, his or her cash, checking, savings, any custodial accounts, any UGMAs, 529 plans, what have you. Did I leave any other? I did. I left some big ones out, which that are included or excluded. Annuities. Annuities are included. More to be included on the FAFSA?
Yeah, you left something out. You asked me if you left something out, and I said that was not what you asked me. And
what
I said
did I
yes.
leave out?
On the CSS profile,
yes,
they ask about money held by siblings and the name of siblings.
That's right.
Whereas the FAFSA is about parent stuff and child stuff, college-bound child stuff.
Yes. That's
one of the big differences.
Yes.
Profile is a lot more invasive. It's twice as long. It's twice as hard. Pearl fills them out for some strange reason. She likes filling them out. I can't imagine. I don't know how you do it, but the
wiring.
It's complicated. Right. It's very complicated. But she gave you an accurate general answer. The strategies for shifting money or sheltering, not hiding. Okay, I keep saying that because I'm defensive. I'm twitching. You still twitching, by the way? Is your eye twitch still there? It is? Did you Botox it today before you went on the air?
No.
I still haven't noticed it, by the way.
Good.
Pearl's complaining about an eye twitch. Did I just jinx it?
It doesn't look like that. It's not very nice.
Okay. Okay. I was about to do like a Donald Trump impression, but that's so not cool. I'm not going to do that.
Don't.
Yeah. So let's talk about financial aid. So there's basically all the stuff that Pearl just mentioned counts against you, and then there are 4 exemptions, 4 things that don't count against you. And again, I'm going to list them out, but I'm not going to really explain them because we have to get through this, and everyone's situation is different. And I'm not advocating moving money around because it may not even pay to do that. It doesn't work for everyone. Here we go. The 4 exemptions are: number 1, your primary resident, that is, primary residence does not count against you on the FAFSA, but as Pearl accurately pointed out, in between twitches, it does count against you on the CSS profile. How it counts, how much it counts, that varies by college. Exemption number 2 are retirement accounts. Pearl also pointed that out. I don't think she was twitching at that point. And I haven't mentioned it in like 2 days or 3 days. I'm so which eye is it?
I'm not telling. You'll have to guess.
Well, obviously it's not noticeable.
Good.
So every type of retirement account, 401k, 403b, whatever, totally exempt, although disclosable on the CSS profile form, but doesn't count against you. That sounds naive, but that really is how it works most of the time. However, to make the distinction here, which we covered earlier, contributions made to your retirement account in the year that they're looking at, those are penalized. Okay, I talked about that a little bit earlier. And then the last two assets out of the four are annuities and insurance products. Some annuities count against you on the profile, some don't. All annuities are exempt on the FAFSA. And then insurance products means cash value, like not term, but cash value life insurance. And again, just to reiterate, moving money around, we look at this all the time. This is what we work with clients on. If you're interested, message me. I'll tell you about that. But it doesn't work for everyone. So if it's not going to work for you, we'll tell you. I just told a potential client yesterday, I said, I think you're going to waste your money hiring us. Don't do it. And he was like, well, I wish he had better news for me, but I appreciate the honesty. And then he referred like one or two of his other friends. So, okay, so that is the answer to that question, as well as some politically incorrect, offensive stuff that you're going to be mad at me for. I don't care. Okay, next question. This is from Katie. Pearl, you're going to do this question. Unless you're angry.
Wait on me.
Okay. This question is, why do eyes twitch? Your eye is really distracting me. Okay. This question, I'll say this. So Katie wanted to know, for FAFSA, I'm remarried. My ex is not. My ex makes more money than we do combined, so I'll definitely be the one on the FAFSA, but is there a way to avoid putting my spouse's income down? Is it expected that the step-parent will contribute to my child's education?
Okay. First part of your answer is you have to put the step-parent's financial information if you are the custodial parent, and it sounds like that is the better choice anyhow. So yes, because you're married and that's the status, then that step-parent's financial information comes into play for the formula. However, since it is a remarriage and perhaps even a new remarriage, and there is no ethical, legal, or other obligation of this step-parent to finance the college. What are you looking at?
You know what I'm looking at.
To finance the college education. Those facts would all be brought up in a negotiation or an appeal, ultimately, an appeal of the award of the school that the student wishes to go to. That's how you would handle it. You don't remove the information. You include the information because that is the proper way to complete the form. However, it matters, and it is worthy of being brought up to the financial aid committee ultimately once an award is rendered that in fact perhaps it's the bulk of the income or a portion of the income and assets is attributable to the step parent and is under no obligation, has said he or she is not going to pay, and a financial aid committee can consider that and do something about it or may not.
So the short answer is that everything goes in. Sometimes what they do is they could calculate your individual expected family contribution and then calculate his expected family contribution and then take an average of the two. Most of the time they just lump everything together and figure it out that way. And the reason is because you're sharing, you're pooling your income, pooling your expenses. So it's not about his obligation to pay or not, like Pearl said, legal or ethical or whatever. It's really more about the ability, the resources. So so that is, unfortunately, that's what happens. One of the flaws, I think, in the formulas. But I understand why they have that policy. Okay. All right, Bob. This looks like a me question. Aaron heard from BU this past weekend, and the decision was something we did not expect or had even heard of. She was not admitted for the fall of 18, but has been guaranteed admission to the fall of 19. Mm-hmm. This decision is conditional on her attending another accredited school for 2 semesters and maintaining a 3.0 GPA, which he likes the sound of the cost of that if it's a community college. She's to accept by May 1st and is not bound by her decision. She has her heart set on a different school, UVM. Oh. Others are thinking that BU is a better school at almost twice the price. I think that means kid and mom usually. We would need to resubmit the FAFSA and CSS forms next year to learn if Aaron might receive any merit money, thoughts, and opinions. Okay. I do think that, that's a kind of a common, more growing type of common occurrence when colleges say, we're not letting you in right away, go to school in Italy or something, we'll ship you off there, then come back second semester, or come back next year, we'll hold a spot for you, because they know they're going to have attrition in either cases. There's other variations on that, so that's kind of a new, I don't know if it's a new thing, but it's becoming more popular type of thing. Do I think that BU is a better school than UVM? I think you can make that argument, but I don't know what the price difference really would be. If you're paying out-of-state rates to the UVM, that's in the 40s at least, and BU is probably in the 60s. So is it really worth an extra $25,000 a year times, either 2 years or 4 years to go to BU? Is it worth $50,000 to $100,000 more? I personally have a hard time on that. I think, judging from the facial expression, or is that?
That's a facial expression, not a twitch. Yeah.
Some kind of palsy.
Yeah, and if the student, and I'm just throwing this out here just to round out the discussion in terms of all the things you must think about, if the student has aspirations of going to graduate school at some point, then a very strong GPA, regardless of what kind of graduate school, is going to be needed upon graduation of the undergraduate. So if, I know sometimes schools are harder to get in than to stay in, but loosely, one can use how one got in. Let's say in one scenario, they're given merit money and they're really being courted to go to one school. That's one scenario, versus where you're kind of clawing your way in. You're not admitted for the first semester, but you're admitted for second year, or what have you. Some scenario like that may, in certain circumstances, shed light on what your prospects are for where you would fall at that school amongst the student population. It's not a guarantee. I'm not trying to dash anyone's hopes. However, if you've tried your hardest in high school and this is the scenario one or the other has put you in, and you want to go to grad school, it is just food for thought and something to consider. Which scenario am I going to best, am I going to be in the best stead for having a very high GPA when I'm applying for grad school 3 years from now, 4 years from now? You're
talking about playing the long game versus the short game.
I am.
We advocate thinking about the long game.
Right.
Okay. Good answer, Pearl. All right, this is from Roxy. So coming up on the hour, and I think we just passed it, and we have a few more comments here. So try to take a stab at some of these comments, and then whatever.
I am answering them, but I don't know where all the rest of those questions went. I'm not able to access them. I'd like to.
Well, you can sort them. There's a way to sort them on Facebook, but if we don't do it live, we'll do it after. All right. So Roxy says, I just want to know how people get those quote-unquote amazing scholarships. Is that the way they fill out the FAFSA? We are middle class, don't qualify, yet so many friends tell us they get a full ride. I'm not sure what we missed with my first daughter, but I want to make sure I don't miss out the second time around. Okay, a lot of stuff to unpack there, as we say.
You fishing in.
So I asked you to go through the comments, Pearl. My first comment was going to be, just because parents say they get a full ride doesn't mean they actually get a full ride. There is a ton of urban legend, half-truths, weird competitive stuff, and there are very few full rides. I'm just telling you, I'm not casting aspersions on any of your friends, but that's just the way it is. And I just saw a whole bunch of thumbs up coming across. Thank you for those. Thank you. Again, if you're just joining us, we're just answering your questions, spouting off. I'm making fun of Pearl so she gets angry at me. But we appreciate all the interaction, and I know you had other things to do tonight. So even though we're snowed in here in Long Island, So, okay, so that's one thing. The second thing is there's, these amazing scholarships that exist, on websites and all that. Also, more urban. I don't really know anyone who's gotten a full ride by filling out all those websites because, frankly, a lot of them are just solicitations, and they're very misleading. A couple of them say, here's how you get a full ride scholarship to Princeton, but they don't. Princeton doesn't offer scholarships. It's only need-based aid, that type of thing. So there's a lot of people who will spend hours that turn into days and weeks and months, and that's just a big rabbit hole that all you get is a bunch of solicitations. So let's put that aside. Here's how you get money. If you don't qualify for need-based aid, the way you get money is on the merit side. And there's actually more merit-based money out there than there is need-based money. Are you
I'm
now
finding it.
you're recovering them? Okay.
Yeah.
And that is what Pearl was saying before, when she was stealing my thunder, is it depends on what pond you fish in or where you apply. So as a general rule, if you're going to apply to a college where you're going to be in the top 25% in terms of grades and scores, you have a substantial likelihood not only of getting in, but getting money from that school. Full ride, more of a myth than a reality. Kind of like trying to, touch the horizon or something. You really can't do it. I hate to say it. Unless you're some, off the hook, crazy athlete. But even then, like the kids who play, who play lacrosse. We have a lot of lacrosse clients, and because we're in Long Island, where that's one of the main sports. And if you look at what they spend on travel clubs and all the fees and just the indirect expenses, you could easily be $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000 a year if you want to think about it. You may not want to, but if you admit it. But let's say $10,000 a year from the time you're in sixth grade or something. What does that end up being? About $60,000, $70,000, and you're lucky to get if you're a D1 recruit, you're probably the best scholarship you're probably going to be able to get is like a $5,000 scholarship, and that's like 2% of the athletes get some sort of scholarship. And we've had clients who have been super high, at Duke, at University of Virginia, at all these amazing lacrosse schools who've gotten and been major contributors, like have won championships for them and been number one recruits at their positions, who've gotten anywhere from $0 to $5,000 as scholarships. So don't hang your hat if you're a student athlete. Please don't hang your hat on getting an athletic scholarship or hoping there's some return on investment in terms of getting more scholarships out of a lacrosse school. Definitely helps you get into a school you might not otherwise be admitted to. But anyway, my point is urban legend is rampant, and it really matters. Circling back to what Pearl was saying, what pond you fish in. Okay, that was a little ranty of me, but
I love Pearl.
Yeah, she's really rubbing off on me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that was Lane. Okay, so now Katie, what are examples of schools where visiting and touring before applying really seem to matter the most? So I'm going to give you a site. Go to collegedata.com. Can you pop that in, Tom? Are you doing someone else's now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to write down collegedata.com. That college is self-reported information there. If you click on the admissions, you can plug in a college, click on the admissions, you'll see a chart, and there's all these columns about do they care about rigor, they care about GPA, they care about the essay, they care about recommendations, they care about demonstrated interest. And then there's different gradients, like no, we don't really consider it that much at all, or it's highly considered. So that's how you do it. collegedata.com. Hope that helps. You guys find this helpful? If you find this helpful, do some of those Facebook emojis, please. Give us a little Facebook feeling, that loving feeling. All right, wrapping up here. Karen, all right, this is for you, Pearl. From Karen to Pearl. Do you need to fill out FAFSA or any other forms to qualify for merit awards?
Sometimes. It depends on the school.
So wishy-washy.
No. Just depends on the school.
Yes, Pearl.
Sometimes you do not, and sometimes in order to be considered for merit aid, they want you to fill out the financial aid forms even if you make too much money.
Yes.
According to you.
Yes. Okay. Great question from Elizabeth. I feel like I could have written this question because this is very blunt. What percentage of white students with two-income parents that aren't minorities get aid? It's actually 73.2%.
Yeah.
Next question. Now, I have no idea, but the answer is that if you have two incomes, no matter what color, it could be purple or black or something else, you're probably not going to get need-based aid anyway, because it's formulaic. But in terms of merit money, probably helps a little bit to be an underrepresented minority, but it actually helps to be a two-income family to get merit aid, believe it or not. So that's an advantage for the white guy. No, I'm kidding. So the reason, though, is because colleges would rather lure affluent families who can pay part of the bill. They'd rather give out, maybe 4 $15,000 scholarships as opposed to one $60,000 scholarship to a super low income family, because they'd rather attract the 4 6-figure earning family group that's going to continue to pay and possibly graduate, become an alum that's going to donate. And whether you like this or not, and I'm trying to I'm encouraging this type of discussion. Elizabeth's right on the money here, pun intended. But I'm not pretending that I think it's the right or the wrong way to go. I'm just dealing with reality here on planet Earth. That's what colleges care about, is they've got all these different agendas, and minority recruitment is one of them. That you may think that's good or not, it doesn't matter. But they also need to pay their bills, and it's much better for them to pay their bills with 6-figure earning families, and that's generally who gets into colleges, 6-figure earning families. But a lot of them are not just white people, so it's really more about the income than the color of your skin. So great question. I appreciate the edge that I was reading between the lines there. Greg, okay, I'll answer this one too since you're typing away. Do colleges like University of Michigan give financial aid or scholarships? So when you say like University of Michigan, I'm not sure what you're implying. Is it schools where there's a lot of douchebag alumni, or do you mean?
Are you getting punchy?
No, he's asking me about schools like University of Michigan, and I'm saying, oh, I wonder what you mean by schools like University of Michigan. Does that mean schools with a lot of douchebag alums? The University of Michigan happens to have a lot of douchebag alums.
Family members aside.
Some are, some aren't. and you, and I'm sure you agree with me. I know you agree with me, actually. No, so I think what you mean is probably not that, but big state schools, big rah-rah schools. And the answer is Michigan in particular is not really, in our experience, not really known for giving out a lot of money. When it was founded, 100-something years ago, the mission of it was to have like an education for the common man in Michigan. And now more than 50% are from, affluent families who don't get aid, and they're paying full price. And Michigan has a huge endowment, an amazing alumni network. And they're really more for mass affluent families at this point. They don't give out a lot of money. University of Virginia also not really similar to University of Michigan, does not give out a ton of money. They do have a scholarship that a couple of our clients, just by coincidence, I think, have gotten over the years. The Jefferson, that's what it's called. Mm-hmm. Thank you, because Thomas Jefferson founded it. Thomas Jefferson is still referred to as Mr. Jefferson by the students at University of Virginia, which also makes that kind of a douchey school. But then you've got other big state schools that do give money to out-of-state residents, and on the merit side. I think Wisconsin was rumored to have started to do that, although I personally haven't seen a lot of that. University of Vermont gives out money. University of Delaware, which is not nearly like University of Michigan, gives a fair amount of money. CU Boulder gives out some merit money, but it's in general, it's harder to get money from a big state school than compared to a private college. Even though the private college may have a higher sticker price, they have a larger endowment for the most part, and they'll discount more. So private colleges tend to discount more than public schools. Okay. Whew. So, all right. So where are you in? I don't even know what's left.
I'm kind of working backwards up. I'm responding to Karen's question. We could do so verbally at this point.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll stay on. If you have any quick questions, we're already over the time that we promised people. So, there's no offer. There's nothing to buy from us.
All
But
right,
if you have any questions that you don't feel comfortable doing over, the internet here to the public, you can privately message us, and either I or Pearl will get back to you pretty soon.
Karen was indicating that she was going to wait until April to negotiate with her first choice school. Then the school added early registration days for qualified students. So what to do? Is there a big advantage or not in doing so? Does it hurt your chances of negotiating? Essentially is what I'm reading into it. And the answer is, if there is going to be a disadvantage in terms of the housing situation for your student, for your child at that school by not registering now, then I would register the student now and continue with your appeal. It's an and. They're not mutually exclusive.
To preserve the housing.
To preserve the housing, exactly. If it's not an issue at that school, then you can wait on it a little bit. But my guess is if they provide that opportunity, there is probably some housing advantage.
Cool. All right. So next one, I can zip through these.
Okay.
Lisa O'Donnell. Hello, Lisa. Do they want to see a certain amount of savings? No, they don't. They don't want to see. It's not going to help you if you have a lot or hurt you if you don't have a lot. Stacy Becker is bragging about getting a custodial parent waiver. Explain what that is.
Okay. So for the CSS profile, if you're applying to a school, as I was discussing before with divorced or separated families, where the custodial parent has completed the information on the FAFSA and the CSS profile, and it's a school that also wants that non-custodial parent's financial information, and let's just say you have absolutely no contact whatsoever with that non-custodial parent, and the idea of participation from that parent seems impossible, then you may be right for a non-custodial parent waiver request form. So basically, it's a form that is a request of the school that's asking for the non-custodial parent's financial information. You're going to make a case, a couple sentences. There is no contact, whatever this particular scenario is. We have not had contact since 2000. This parent, the non-custodial parent gives absolutely no money, has never, we are taking him to court, or we've been to court 3 times or whatever. That is not, there's no luck whatsoever, no hope of participation. Okay, so in addition, on such a waiver, it's going to ask questions like, when was the last time the student had contact with the non-custodial parent? If you answer such a question like,
I knew you were going to say this,
yesterday,
right,
then they're probably not going to
hypothetically,
grant
not actually, hypothetically,
that waiver request.
Yeah.
So it is in the school's discretion whether or not to accept or reject such a waiver request, and that's just the way it is.
Okay. All right. Annie, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right.
Annie?
She joins us a lot. No, Pagate. My son is a CASA professional. He's getting accepted, but receiving the same loan and $10,000 that many are getting. He's an Eagle Scout. Can I refresh his memory and all that? So the CASA thing helps you get in more so than helps you get money. What helps you get money is applying to schools where you're kind of above. You're going to class them up in terms of grades and scores. So I wasn't trying to imply there's a direct link between that, the money and being CASA. It's more about getting in. All right, Colleen says, so it means that the college would rather you give them the money than your IRA plan. Probably. They're in business too. That's all I can tell you. And Jennifer, hello, Jennifer. She agrees. Elizabeth Ozal, any advice for special ed students? No real advice other than I think there's been a growing and continues to be a growing acknowledgement that kids learn differently, and more and more schools seem to be beefing up their programs that offer accommodations and services, and also recognizing that kids learn differently. So, but no real advice. Sometimes people ask me, on the essays, because we help a lot of kids with essays. They'll ask about whether they should mention it or not mention it and all that, and I don't really have a black and white response to that. But I think overall, if it's something that's important, it'd be weird not to write about it. So I think it's potentially an interesting thing that can help. Lainey Midland, is your test prep available online or is it in person only? Marissa, our tutor, Skypes. She has a lot of clients from different parts of the country. The classes, we've been messing around with live streaming. I haven't really been happy with the quality of the internet connection when we do live stream the classes that we're doing right now. So what Marissa and I are talking about is doing like a separate type of connection. So it wouldn't be like a live class with kids. We wouldn't be simultaneously simulcasting, but currently we don't have any live classes, just the online, just the Skyping for tutoring. All right, Cheryl. Hello, Cheryl. How old does a child have to be to consider? Okay, this is for you. How old does a child have to be considered? Has to be in order to be considered independent? All right, I'll answer it then.
Okay, either the student, in order to be deemed independent for financial aid purposes, you are either over age 24 or you are in graduate school. But even if you're in graduate school, some graduate school programs, like some law schools, will allow the parent's income to still come into play. And therefore, Parent Plus loan be obtained, et cetera. But generally speaking, graduate students are independent.
And you can emancipate. It's really hard to emancipate
and then
a kid.
They're right. And then, so those are, okay. So for all of you who want to be creative, forget it. Okay? You're either over 24 or you're a grad student, or forget it.
Don't be creative. That's what your message is?
No, you're not. You're relying on a public form unless you have such a situation where you have a court-ordered emancipation, court-ordered. You are part of the foster system, etc. Okay. The point is, for the most part, whatever normal scenario, there's no such thing as normal scenario anymore, but it's very specific and it's not that easy to just,
used to be.
Fake it.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you saying don't be creative in any area or just with this stuff?
You can be creative, just don't be creative where you're committing a felony.
Oh. Okay, Pearl.
Picky that way.
Judgy. Michelle Hornstein says, thank you. You are welcome. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it and sharing. Misty Jones, my EFC was over $60,000. That's half my take-home pay. How is this possible? Two reasons, two possibilities. One is you have a lot of savings. In the absence of that, you might have made a mistake. But obviously I haven't seen your FAFSA, so I don't know what went on it. But it's possible you made a mistake. It's not, it's harder to do that now with income, misreporting income, because because it gets ported in automatically now from the IRS site. However, there was an issue in October where for very specific people who had rollover IRAs in 2017, that was counted as income, even though it shouldn't be, and that inflated people's EFCs. So that is another possibility, but that would fall under the mistake category. So it's hard for me to answer that one in a vacuum. Okay. Jesus Gonzalez, selling rental properties and sheltering money in primary home, paying down house, and moving remainder to high cash value life insurance policy. Is it a good idea applying to state universities? Sounds like it's iffy at best, but it's a good idea to think about, and it's certainly possible. I don't know. Works for some people. I can't tell you it's going to work for everyone. Stacy Becker. Oh, nice. For all of you who haven't signed up with Pearl and Andy, they helped our son get into several schools at various levels. He was lucky to get into one of the top 3, which he attends now. Sign up. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks.
Did you pay her for that, or was that?
A little bit.
Okay. Did you see Elizabeth Ozal's?
Yes, definitely. I'm totally going to go get some
Take magnesium for eye twitch. Well, that's kind of a weird thing to say.
Magnesium seems good for everything.
Well, it's kind of a weird thing to say because she's trying to prevent the eye twitch. She doesn't want an eye twitch.
Hilarious.
So I don't know why you would take magnesium for an eye twitch.
Oh, we should have thought of that.
It's tough being a comedic genius when no one appreciates me. You already responded to that one.
Yes.
Okay. BU, this is from Joanne. Hi, Joanne. Is high on the list for grade deflation. Okay. Bob Cornell, thank you. I love when Bob shows up. You're welcome. Jennifer, true about the full rides. Yeah, she knows she's in a hotbed school with all kinds of chitter chatter. You answered the work study question, it looks like.
Yeah.
Kim Barrett, our high school doesn't rank students, so how can you find out where they stand in their graduating class? I know NPC asked the student rankings as well. What's NPC? Tell me what NPC is. The answer is that a lot of schools do not, they don't publish rank anymore, or they have 7 valedictorians, mostly because of parent complaints. So you can, a lot of times guidance counselors in senior year will kind of tell you a guesstimate you're probably in the top 10 of the kids, probably the top 20, but you kind of, you're kind of in the dark until then. It's guessing. Okay. Colleen, little smiley, sunglass face. Cindy, good emojis. Joy Applebaum. Okay. Are 529s held against you? Are they counted against you? Yeah, they are. They are. So the question with them is not whether they count against you, it's how much. It's at least 5%. It could be more than that. Lainey, what is that site to look up what colleges value when considering admissions? collegedata.com. You want to pop that in there? collegedata.com. Sure. Okay. Pat Berry, is your pullover Syracuse or Stony Brook? Neither.
Yeah, I told her.
You did?
Yeah.
I thought you were coming from the bottom.
We missed someone.
Annie says you had me at douchebag alums.
I like you.
I think we lost a bunch of viewers when I said that. Possibly some family members. Okay.
We look to repel and.
You know what? Even if they don't like it, it's true. So I don't care. All right.
That's right.
If you have Pat Barrett, if you have a 529 for your child, you have to use it all early. You can use some each year. There's no, whenever you want.
No rules, right?
Yeah. Elizabeth, how would existing students try to obtain merit money? Very hard to do it. You have to kind of threaten to go somewhere else and maybe show an offer, maybe apply for transfer. Show it somewhere else. John Franzalia, what is the process for applying for merit aid if it's not FAFSA? Most of the time you are considered automatically. Sometimes you have to do a separate application, but most of the time it's just about your grades and your scores and you're considered. Annie, you're from Long Island when you use douchebag in your vocabulary. Actually, from Newton, Massachusetts. So that's why my Boston accent was so compelling earlier in the program. Is Tracy Summer Graziano, is 529 a determinant to getting financial aid? So I think you're asking the question I got before, which does it count against you? Yeah, it counts against you. Cindy's in love with Marissa. Yeah, I told her that. That's great. Thank you. Missy Jones, talk about her savings. Oh, I guess you deleted a question?
I did. I know. I'm looking. I asked her again.
Okay. Colleen, is there any hope for aid based on our inflated EFC from severance and IRA rollover through the appeal process? Yes. That is a classic example of things that are different in reality than they are on paper. So absolutely. Jen, thank you. You're going to come and endorse me at Bronx Science. It's coming up. It's. I think it's in April. I'll try to remember to tell you. I don't have my calendar on me right here. Okay. Lisa Holmes Torquez. Am I a ghost? I get skipped on the question list and on here help. On my friend's Facebook, I don't have one. I don't remember seeing a question from her.
I'm searching.
So just try to post that again. Yeah, Facebook's weird because it's Cambridge Analytica or whatever. Elizabeth, you are welcome. You thought your husband's the only one who uses DB? Yeah, there's plenty of us. All right, Tracy, good question here about the 529. Can I transfer my my daughter's 529 to my son younger so it doesn't count against her? It's going to count against you because it's either considered a parent asset on the FAFSA and all parent assets are there, or it's going to, if you're applying to a CSS profile school, they ask about all siblings under the age of 19. They do. So the bigger question is does it even pay to do something like that? And the answer is it depends, and that's something we can certainly talk about, privately. That's if you're a client question, because your income may knock you out of the box, the types of schools may knock you out of the box. But sometimes, not all the time, it does pay to terminate a 529 early and stash it in an exempt asset like an annuity or an insurance policy. But a lot of times it doesn't. But that would be the best way to not have a 529 affect you.
Lisa re-asked her question.
Okay, how do we? Well, I did actually answer this question a couple times. Maybe it wasn't from her. How do we negotiate merit aid at a private school? Generous offer now, but high UFC makes it hard. Financial aid guy invited us to come in for an appointment next week. No financial changes, losses, whatever. So I don't know why he would invite you if it's a merit offer. It's really something you got to do more with admissions. And I'd posted, if you look through the thread here, we actually offer appealing as a do-it-yourself thing. I can show you, sample letters and exactly walking you through it. Or we're still taking on a couple of people. So Pearl posted both of those websites. It's appealsclass.com and appeals-service.com. But your best bet is going to be you have other offers from other schools maybe that will help and help you use as leverage. And if you don't have those, then I'm not sure what the arguments would be, but I go over those in the course. But it's kind of hard for me to answer that one. Jen, you're going to be there. Wow, cool. I don't have any new financial aid jokes. I'm not just full disclosure. All right, Annie, the whole senior year is the race to the best, most affordable school so overwhelming. I'm seriously considering basing our choice on whether or not they have a hoodie in my son's 4XL. That would impress me.
That's funny.
I'm so done.
That's hysterical.
That's the way a lot of people.
Keep your wits about you. Do not get submerged within this process.
Yeah.
There are many roads to greatness, and everybody has a different path. And most of these schools out there offer the satisfactory level of education that any one student can go to and take advantage of and immerse themselves in and make connections and become a superstar if they so choose. So
the kids think they're settling for a certain college, and then they love it.
Right.
Most kids end up loving where they're at, no matter what. And there's more similarities and differences among colleges too. So, yeah, the 4XL thing. He's a big boy. That's I can't really comment on that other than a lot of people. I don't know how we could possibly do a study like this, but a lot of people base their college decisions on the paraphernalia, the apparel, not just the sizes, but the colors, the mascots, all the stuff we have here in our little studio. Okay, and you answered Cheryl's comment about independent. We talked about that. I think we're done.
It's a wrap.
Yeah, so we went over, not surprising, about an hour and a half. Thank you again. If you're not snowed in, you might have had other things to do.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We always appreciate it. This is probably the most fun part of our jobs here, running our business, is helping you guys with these questions. Yeah. And don't be a stranger. Private message us if there's something you didn't feel comfortable talking in front of the whole wide world. And if you share this with your friends and other people who need this information, we would be very, very grateful. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.